Not everyone deserves your help, and knowing when to walk away is one of the most powerful decisions you'll ever make. Think about it. How often have you bent over backward for someone who didn't appreciate it, or worse, took advantage of your kindness? You've given your time, energy, maybe even your hard-earned money, only to feel drained, disrespected, and maybe even used. It's exhausting. But here's the cold truth. Not everyone is worth your effort. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They believed in helping others, but with discernment, not blind sacrifice. They taught that your time, energy, and peace of mind are precious, and wasting them on the wrong people can derail your own purpose. And in today's fast-paced world, this wisdom is more critical than ever. So, who should you help? More importantly, who shouldn't you? That's what we're diving into today. We'll uncover the 10 types of people you should avoid helping, not out of selfishness, but because guarding your energy and focus allows you to support those who truly deserve it. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to set boundaries, protect your emotional well-being, and focus your efforts where they truly matter. Let's get started. Lesson 1. Recognize the resistant to change. Trying to help someone who refuses to change is like trying to teach a cat to fetch your morning paper. Sure, it might be amusing for a while, but eventually you realize you're just spinning your wheels. Stoicism teaches us that energy spent trying to control what's beyond our influence is energy wasted. Epictetus made it clear, our choices and reactions are within our power, but others' behavior, that's entirely their domain. Picture this. A friend constantly vents about their toxic job, lack of progress, or terrible relationships. You step in with advice, practical, thoughtful, actionable advice, and what do? Ignore it, brush it off. Keep walking the same path as though it's a scenic route. Sound familiar? It's maddening, right? Yet, we persist, convinced that one day our golden nugget of wisdom will finally sink in. But here's the cold truth. Some people thrive on their discomfort. It's their comfort zone. They don't actually want solutions. They want sympathy or attention. You could hand them a step-by-step guide to a better life, and they'd still find a way to stay stuck. Back in my 20s, I had a friend who hated his job. Every lunch break was a monologue about his miserable boss, the awful office culture, and how he dreamed of starting his own business. I sympathized, offered solutions, and even connected him to people who could help him take the leap. Years passed, and there he was. Same complaints, same job, zero changes. It hit me one day. Marcus Aurelius wouldn't lose sleep over this guy's career rut. Why was I? Stoics remind us to focus on where we can make an impact. Engaging with someone who resists growth isn't just futile. It drains your energy and sends the unspoken message that their inertia is acceptable. Time is your most finite resource. Wouldn't it be better spent with people who value your advice and are ready to act? Imagine Marcus Aurelius sitting in the Roman Forum, politely listening to someone rehash the same issue for the umpteenth time. Even he might have cracked a wry smile and thought, perhaps the gods made some people immune to progress. Here's the takeaway. Stop trying to save people who don't want to be saved. You can empathize without enabling and care without sacrificing your own peace. Recognize when your time is better spent elsewhere. After all, self-respect means knowing when to let go. Lesson 2. Spot the emotional drainers. Every one of us has encountered that person who turns every interaction into a one-sided therapy session. They offload their problems onto you, drain your energy, and rarely, if ever, ask, "How are you doing?" If left unchecked, these emotional drainers can leave you feeling like a cell phone at 1% battery, desperately needing a recharge. Stoicism teaches us that while compassion is essential, it must be balanced with self-preservation. Picture this: you've just finished a long work day, ready to kick back with your favorite show or spend time with your family. Then your phone buzzes. It's that one friend, the one who never calls to check in but always calls to vent. Before you know it, you're an unpaid therapist, nodding along as they complain about the same issue you've heard 12 times before. Advice? They're not looking for it. Solutions? They'll shoot those down quicker than you can say boundaries. The Stoics had a term for this kind of imbalance, a misuse of your energy. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of guarding one's inner peace. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional drainers are outside events. Their chaos isn't yours to bear, but their presence can disrupt your tranquility if you let it." I remember a co-worker who would corner me in the break room to unload every grievance they had about their life. No matter what advice I offered, the response was always, "Yeah, but..." It was like they were less interested in solutions and more interested in staying stuck. Eventually, I had to establish boundaries. I kept the conversations short and steered them toward neutral topics. It wasn't easy, but the peace of reclaiming my energy was worth it. Here's the thing: being a good person doesn't mean being someone's emotional sponge. Stoicism encourages us to practice empathy while maintaining boundaries. Think of it like an oxygen mask on an airplane. You can't help anyone if you're running on empty yourself. The next time someone starts draining your emotional reserves, ask yourself, am I actually helping this person, or am I just enabling their cycle of negativity? If it's the latter, it's time to set limits. Redirect the conversation, reduce the frequency of interactions, or even suggest they seek professional help if it's a recurring issue. Stoic wisdom doesn't call for shutting people out, it calls for mindful engagement. Your energy is precious, and part of living virtuously is using it wisely. Save it for those who uplift you, who respect your time, and who genuinely seek growth. In doing so, you'll find that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential. Lesson 3. Be wary of manipulators. Manipulators are like emotional pickpockets. They'll charm you, distract you, and before you know it, they've walked off with your time, energy, and sometimes even your sense of self. The Stoics would tell us to remain vigilant, for manipulators thrive on our lack of awareness. They don't necessarily take what's theirs, but prey on what we leave unguarded. Imagine someone who always has a favor to ask, a crisis only you can solve, or a way of twisting your kindness into their personal gain. You think you're helping, but soon enough, you're wondering why all roads in their life seem to lead through you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The same principle applies here. If someone's motives don't feel genuine, trust your gut. Let me share a personal anecdote. A former acquaintance once convinced me to invest in their idea for a revolutionary app. The pitch, flawless. The follow-through, non-existent. After weeks of chasing updates, it dawned on me that they were more interested in having a safety net than in creating something meaningful. I didn't lose a fortune, but I did lose time, and learned a valuable lesson about saying no to the emotionally persuasive but strategically clueless. Stoicism urges us to practice discernment, to look at actions over words. Epictetus reminded us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Manipulators by nature have endless wants. They'll flatter you, guilt you, or make you feel indispensable, all in the name of fulfilling their needs. But your role in life isn't to play savior to someone unwilling to carry their own weight. So how do you spot a manipulator before they dig their hooks in? Pay attention to patterns. Do they frequently appeal to your emotions without showing gratitude or accountability? Are their crises perpetual, yet somehow solutions never materialize? These are red flags that Stoic reasoning can help you address calmly and firmly. Here's where it gets practical. When you encounter a manipulator, keep your boundaries clear and your emotions steady. They thrive on reaction, so don't give them the satisfaction. Instead, channel your inner Seneca. Stay rational, polite, and resolute. "No, I can't help you with that," is a complete sentence. Deliver it with kindness, but stand your ground. Ultimately, your time and energy are finite. Don't let manipulators convince you otherwise. Stoic philosophy reminds us to align our actions with virtue, not with someone else's cleverly disguised agenda. Remember, helping others is noble, but only when it's rooted in authenticity, not coercion. So next time someone leans on you too hard, take a step back and ask, am I helping or am I being used? That pause might just save you from their trap and keep your peace intact. Lesson 4. Avoid chronic victims. The perpetual victim, the person for whom every setback is someone else's fault. They're like life's weatherman, always forecasting storms, but never carrying an umbrella. As Stoics, we're taught to focus on what we can control and accept responsibility for our actions. Perpetual victims, however, have mastered the art of dodging responsibility like it's a full contact sport. Picture this: a co-worker is constantly late to meetings and blames everything from traffic to their coffee machine rebelling. "You won't believe it," they'll say, "my GPS rerouted me through the twilight zone." At first, you nod sympathetically. After all, life happens. But after the 10th excuse, you start to realize they've got more drama than a soap opera, and you're cast as the supportive side character. Epictetus would remind us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The perpetual victim hasn't learned this yet. Instead, they believe it's not what happens to them, but who they can blame for it that truly counts. Trying to help them often leads to a frustrating cycle. You offer solutions, they reject them. You provide encouragement, they drain it. It's a one-sided partnership where you do all the rowing while they enjoy the view. Let me share a personal example. A friend of mine once complained endlessly about their job. "My boss hates me," they'd say, or "the universe is out to get me." I suggested actionable steps: updating their resume, learning new skills, or addressing their concerns professionally. Their response? "That won't work for me." After several rounds of this, I realized they weren't interested in solutions. They just wanted an audience. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's when I decided to stop arguing their potential and focus on my own energy instead. When dealing with perpetual victims, the key is to set boundaries, not bailouts. It's not cruel to step back. It's stoic. You're not obligated to carry someone who refuses to walk on their own. By enabling them, you're actually reinforcing their belief that they can't take control of their life, which goes against everything Stoicism teaches. If you find yourself tempted to intervene, ask yourself, am I solving their problem or just feeding their narrative? Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let them face their struggles without interference. It's not easy, especially if you care about the person. But as Seneca said, while we teach, we learn. By modeling accountability and resilience, you show them a better way without losing yourself in the process. And here's a bit of humor to keep it light. Think of it like this. If life were a poker game, the perpetual victim wouldn't just fold every hand. They'd accuse the dealer of stacking the deck and the cards, of having a personal vendetta. You don't need to play along with that hand. Reserve your energy for those who are willing to take accountability, because helping them is a much more rewarding bet. Lesson 5. Distance yourself from narcissists. Dealing with a narcissist is like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. You pour in your time, energy, and kindness, but it's never enough. Stoicism teaches us to invest our resources wisely, focusing on what truly matters. Narcissists, however, thrive on attention, validation, and control. They'll happily let you exhaust yourself to meet their endless needs without giving anything meaningful in return. Imagine this. You've got a friend who treats every conversation like an interview, where they're the star guest and you're the unpaid host. You could be mid-sentence about your day, and they'll interrupt with, "Enough about you. What do you think about me?" At first it might seem harmless or even amusing, but over time, their self-centeredness drains you, leaving little room for reciprocity or genuine connection. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This is a Stoic cornerstone. We don't need to judge or despise the narcissist, but we also don't need to hand them the reins of our time and emotional bandwidth. Tolerance doesn't mean servitude. It means recognizing their nature without letting it consume you. A personal story? I once worked with someone who fit the classic narcissist mold. Every group project became their solo spotlight. If things went well, they were the hero. If things went sideways, suddenly it was everyone else's fault. I once spent hours helping them prep for a presentation, only for them to take full credit during the meeting, never even a thank you afterward. Instead of addressing it directly, I tried harder to earn their recognition. That's where I made my mistake. It wasn't until I started stepping back and setting boundaries that I reclaimed my peace of mind. Here's the thing, narcissists often see your kindness as a resource they're entitled to rather than something you willingly offer. It's not about shunning them entirely. Stoicism doesn't promote hostility, but it does teach us to protect our energy. Seneca said, "Associate with those who make you better." Narcissists rarely do. Instead, they keep you locked in their orbit, hoping to keep the spotlight on themselves at all costs. Engaging with a narcissist is like signing up to play catch, only to realize they're keeping the ball every time you throw it. At some point, you've got to stop pitching. So how do you navigate these relationships? Simple. Limit your investment. Offer kindness without expectation, but reserve your deeper energy for those who genuinely value and reciprocate it. Remember, Stoicism isn't about closing yourself off from people. It's about choosing who deserves your effort. And when you stop feeding the endless appetites of the narcissistic, you'll find more time and energy for meaningful relationships with those who truly appreciate you. Lesson 6. The importance of boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're fences with gates. They're not about cutting people off, but about defining where your energy and well-being begin and where someone else's chaos ends. In Stoicism, boundaries align with the idea of controlling what's within your sphere of influence. Marcus Aurelius famously reminded himself to keep his soul untainted, a phrase that speaks directly to the need for protecting one's emotional and mental space. Think of boundaries as your no trespassing sign for unnecessary drama. It's not about being cold or unkind. It's about preserving your energy for what truly matters. For example, have you ever had that one friend who always calls at 2 a.m. to vent about their problems, but somehow never listens to yours? The Stoics would advise politely yet firmly closing the gate on that kind of interaction. Not to abandon the person, but to protect your peace. Now, setting boundaries doesn't mean you turn into a robotic Stoic, shrugging at every emotional request. Instead, it's about being intentional. Ask yourself, is this something that aligns with my values and priorities? If the answer is no, you owe it to yourself to set a clear limit. The tricky part? Guilt. Setting boundaries often feels like you're letting people down. But here's a Stoic twist. If your boundaries are built on reason and virtue, then holding them is an act of integrity, not selfishness. Epictetus put it bluntly, other people's opinions are not my concern. Translation? If someone thinks you're being unreasonable for protecting your time and energy, that's their problem, not yours. Let's make it relatable. Imagine you're hosting Thanksgiving dinner, and a relative, let's call them Uncle Bill, has a habit of turning every family gathering into a heated debate about something trivial. Do you let him hijack the evening, or do you set a boundary by redirecting the conversation or calmly excusing yourself? The Stoics would argue for the latter. You maintain your composure and refuse to let someone else's behavior dictate your emotional state. Setting boundaries is about living in alignment with your principles. It's not about controlling others, but ensuring that their behavior doesn't control you. Whether it's refusing to take on someone else's endless emotional baggage or declining an obligation that overextends you, boundaries are acts of self-respect. And as the Stoics teach us, respect for yourself is the foundation for respecting others. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're bridges to a more balanced, intentional life. Protect your peace, honor your time, and watch as your world becomes lighter and more manageable. Lesson 7. When to offer help. Knowing when to offer help is one of the most nuanced aspects of Stoic wisdom. It's not about closing your heart or turning away from others in need. It's about offering assistance with intention and discernment. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This doesn't mean helping everyone indiscriminately. It means helping when your actions align with virtue and the greater good. Imagine you're a captain of a lifeboat. If you try to save everyone, you risk capsizing the boat and losing everyone, including yourself. Stoicism teaches us to evaluate the situation before we act. Is your help genuinely needed, or is it enabling bad habits? Will your efforts lead to a positive outcome, or are you merely shielding someone from the consequences they need to face? Let's get real for a moment. Picture your cousin Doug, who always calls when he's out of gas. Again, you've bailed him out 3 times this month, and you're starting to wonder if you're his personal ally. Offering help is noble, but enabling a cycle of irresponsibility isn't. Instead of fueling his car, literally, you might help Doug by encouraging him to set up a budget or sign up for roadside assistance. You're still helping, but in a way that promotes self-reliance, not dependency. The Stoics believed in acting from reason rather than impulse. If you feel pressured to help because of guilt or social expectations, pause and reflect. Are you acting out of fear of judgment or because it's the right thing to do? Epictetus would advise, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Helping should come from your sense of purpose, not from emotional coercion. Helping someone who genuinely needs it and who is open to change is deeply rewarding. It strengthens relationships and aligns with Stoic principles of justice and kindness. However, even when you offer help, It's essential to remember that you cannot control the outcome. If the person doesn't take your advice or squanders your assistance, it's not a reflection of your efforts. Your role is to act virtuously, not to guarantee results. Helping the right person is like planting a seed in fertile soil. You'll eventually see growth. Helping the wrong person, that's like trying to plant a tree in a sandpit. No matter how much water you pour, the tree's not growing, and now you're out of water. The key to knowing when to help lies in assessing both the person and the situation. Are they open to improvement? Do they take responsibility for their actions? Are your efforts likely to lead to positive change? By focusing your help where it's truly needed, you honor your time, your energy, and the Stoic principle of living with purpose. Lesson 8. Emotional self-care. Emotional self-care isn't just bubble baths and yoga retreats. It's about building a fortress around your peace of mind, brick by brick. For Stoics, this meant tending to the garden of your inner life, keeping it free from weeds like resentment, overwhelm, and unnecessary emotional clutter. Marcus Aurelius summed it up perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional self-care is that realization in action. Think about it. You wouldn't let someone waltz into your home, rearrange your furniture, and eat the last slice of pizza. Yet, how often do you let people's opinions, negativity, or drama waltz into your mental space and disrupt your peace? Emotional self-care is about guarding your inner world with the same vigilance you'd have over your favorite recliner. Remember that one colleague, let's call him Dave, who's always unloading his work stress onto you. Dave somehow thinks your desk doubles as his therapist's couch. At first, you might listen, trying to be helpful. But after a while, his negativity becomes a daily rainstorm over your sunny outlook. A Stoic approach to emotional self-care means recognizing that while you can't control Dave's gripes, you can control how much space you let them take up in your head. Politely set boundaries. Dave, I hear you're having a tough time, but I've got to focus right now. Let's catch up later. Now you've protected your peace without becoming the office villain. Stoicism encourages us to build resilience against external chaos by strengthening our inner calm. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about observing your feelings with curiosity, not judgment. If you're overwhelmed, take a step back and ask, why am I reacting this way? Is this within my control? You'll find that most emotional turmoil stems from trying to manage what's beyond your reach. Epictetus would likely advise, don't tie your happiness to external things. They are fleeting and unreliable. Emotional self-care is realizing that external events, from a flat tire to an unkind comment, only have the power to upset you if you grant them that power. Practicing emotional self-care is like owning a mental no soliciting sign. You don't have to let every negative thought or drama peddler sell you their nonsense. When a co-worker tries to drag you into office gossip or a neighbor's complaint threatens your mood, just envision that sign and move along. Taking care of your emotional well-being also involves carving out time for solitude and reflection. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about retreating into his inner sanctuary, a space where he could reset and reconnect with his core values. For you, this could mean a quiet walk in the park, journaling, or even just turning off your phone for an hour. Small moments of intentional quiet are powerful acts of self-preservation. Ultimately, emotional self-care is about showing up for yourself with the same care and respect you might offer a loved one. By practicing it consistently, you align with the Stoic belief that true strength comes from within, and that strength helps you face life's challenges without losing your cool or your smile. Lesson 9. Cultivate supportive relationships. The Stoics understood that while self-reliance is crucial, life isn't meant to be walked entirely alone. Marcus Aurelius said, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower." Stoicism doesn't demand isolation. It emphasizes surrounding yourself with people who elevate, inspire, and challenge you to grow. The question isn't whether relationships are valuable, it's how to cultivate the right ones. Imagine for a moment you're a farmer and your relationships are your crops. Some need nurturing and care, while others, let's be honest, are weeds stealing your soil's nutrients. Supportive relationships are like the golden crops that thrive under your effort and feed you in return. But how do you recognize these relationships and ensure they grow strong? The first step is clarity. Ask yourself, does this person enrich my life, or do they constantly pull me into unnecessary chaos? Supportive relationships have a balance of give and take, where both people feel valued. The Stoics didn't believe in one-sided dependency. They valued mutual respect. If a relationship feels like carrying a boulder uphill, it might be time to reconsider its place in your life. I once had a co-worker, we'll call him Steve, who on paper seemed like a good ally, but every interaction felt like being sucked into a whirlwind of his issues and complaints. Oh, the boss this, oh, the workload that. I tried to be supportive, but it never felt reciprocal. Eventually, I realized I was spending more time untangling Steve's problems than managing my own priorities. By stepping back, I made room for connections with colleagues who collaborated rather than complained. Building supportive relationships doesn't mean you only seek out people who agree with you. In fact, the best relationships often challenge you. Epictetus believed that constructive criticism is invaluable for growth, so don't shy away from those who respectfully hold you accountable. That said, there's a difference between constructive challenge and unwarranted negativity. A supportive friend helps you rise. A critic drags you down. The second step is investment. Relationships, like Stoic virtues, require daily practice. Are you showing up for the people who matter? Are you truly present, offering genuine encouragement and attention? Marcus Aurelius would remind himself to approach every interaction with kindness and patience, knowing that we're all imperfect but capable of mutual support. Even when a friend stumbles or a family member is difficult, your steady presence can be a guiding light. Lastly, remember that quality matters more than quantity. You don't need an entourage. You need a few trusted individuals who share your values. Think of it this way. A close-knit circle of trusted allies is like a fortress, strong, secure, and reliable. Compare that to a sprawling castle with paper walls. It looks impressive, but it crumbles when tested. Imagine your relationships as a group project in high school. There's always that one person doing all the work. You, probably, the one who shows up late with snacks but no contribution, and the rare gem who actually pulls their weight. In life, you want more of those gems on your team and fewer snack bearers who disappear at crunch time. The Stoics emphasize that we're all interconnected, so fostering supportive relationships is not just about what you gain, it's about what you give back. When you cultivate meaningful connections, you create a ripple effect of positivity, strength, and growth for everyone in your circle. The result? A life enriched by others who help you become the best version of yourself and whom you, in turn, help thrive. Lesson 10. Control what you can. Your choices. In Stoic philosophy, the cornerstone of a fulfilling life is understanding what is and isn't within our control. As Epictetus famously said, some things are up to us and some things are not. Among the things that are firmly within your grasp, your choices, how you respond, what you prioritize, and the actions you take, these are your domains of power. If you master them, you master yourself. Here's a truth bomb for you. Life will always throw curveballs. People will disappoint you, circumstances won't go as planned, and traffic will somehow always be worse when you're already running late. But the Stoics teach us that none of these things have the power to derail us unless we let them. The true battleground is not out there, it's inside your mind. Imagine this, you're at a family gathering and your uncle, the one who never fails to bring up politics, starts a heated debate across the turkey. Do you dive in, hoping to change his mind, or do you control what you can, your reaction, and choose to steer the conversation elsewhere? A younger version of me would have taken the bait, armed with opinions and an overzealous need to win the argument. The older, Stoic-inspired me knows better. I smile, nod, and ask him if he's tried the gravy. Humor aside, the ability to focus on what you can control is like a superpower in a world where most people waste energy fighting unwinnable battles. By choosing your responses wisely, you can serve your mental energy for what truly matters: your growth, your goals, and your peace of mind. Control of your choices extends to how you spend your time. Think of every decision as casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Are you spending hours scrolling through your phone, letting algorithms dictate your attention? Or are you choosing to invest that time in building a skill, connecting with loved ones, or reflecting on your day? The Stoics would remind us that life is fleeting and our choices shape how we live it. I used to be a chronic people pleaser, saying yes to every request, even when I knew it would stretch me thin. One day, after agreeing to a weekend favor that involved hours of manual labor and zero gratitude, I had a realization. My time and energy were mine to steward. If I didn't guard them, no one else would. That choice, to start saying no to obligations that didn't align with my values, marked a turning point. Suddenly I had more time for things that mattered and less resentment over things that didn't. The Stoic concept of controlling your choices isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. It's recognizing that every yes to something is a no to something else. You can't control other people's demands, but you can control how you respond to them. And let's not forget the power of reframing. The next time you're stuck in a long line at the grocery store, remember, you can't control the pace of the cashier, but you can choose to practice patience. Maybe use that time to observe the people around you, or better yet, remind yourself how lucky you are to have food to buy. This tiny shift in perspective turns an annoyance into an opportunity for gratitude. Think about your choices like assembling IKEA furniture. You don't control the instructions, confusing as they may be, or the missing screws, but you do control your decision to keep going, get creative, and maybe even laugh when your bookshelf turns into a slightly leaning tower of ambition. In the end, controlling what you can boils down to this: your power lies in your response, not the situation. Whether it's a difficult person, a failed project, or a goal that feels out of reach, the key is to focus on what you can do right now. By making deliberate, aligned choices, you not only navigate life's chaos, you thrive in spite of it. So the next time life feels overwhelming, channel your inner Stoic. Ask yourself, what can I control here? Then make your move with clarity, confidence, and maybe even a dash of humor. The rest? Leave it to the universe. Life is a series of choices: who we help, what we focus on, and how we respond to the world around us. The Stoics taught us that while we can't control everything, we can always control ourselves. And by doing so, we create a life of purpose, clarity, and resilience. Throughout this video, we've explored the boundaries of generosity, the dangers of misplaced energy, and the profound power of self-awareness. Each lesson isn't just philosophy, it's a practical tool to help you navigate your relationships, protect your peace, and focus your efforts on what truly matters. Now, here's your challenge. Take one lesson from today's video and put it into action this week. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who drains you. Perhaps it's taking a hard look at where you're spending your energy, or practicing emotional self-care for the first time in a while. Whatever resonates most, commit to applying it and see how it impacts your life. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's one takeaway from this video that you're going to implement? Drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. Remember, helping others is noble, but doing so wisely is essential. By aligning your actions with your values and protecting your inner peace, you'll not only strengthen yourself, but also be better equipped to uplift those who genuinely need it. Stay strong, stay grounded, and as always, thank you for being part of this journey. I'll see you in the next video.